Welcome to the World News on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. My name is Esther Wachuku, and these are the top stories. President Tinubu discloses reason for removing fuel subsidy. Babachir Lawal fires Tinubu, says Nigeria is not Lagos. NLC protesters flood National Assembly. Presidency speaks amidst nationwide protests. Details now. The World News begins with President Bola Tinubu defending the decision of his administration to end the fuel subsidy regime in Nigeria. According to the president, fuel subsidy had to go because it was causing a strain on the economy, leading to inefficiencies and, most importantly, hindering Nigeria's ability to invest in critical areas of energy security. Speaking on Tuesday, which is today, President Tinubu said he is aware the decision to remove fuel subsidy has led to hardship for many Nigerians, especially amongst low-income earners, but however assured that the hardship is temporary and the country and its citizens would reap the benefits of the policy. President Tinubu made the submission at the opening of the 2024 Nigeria International Energy Summit in Abuja, where he was represented by the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris. He said with the removal of fuel subsidy, the country can now channel resources to other developmental areas and encourage further private sector participation in the energy industry, leading to more investment. On the impact of his decision on ordinary Nigerians, President Tinubu said the decision was not an easy one, but necessary for the growth and development of the country. He said, and I quote, "I am acutely aware of the immediate impact this decision may have had on our citizens, especially those with lower incomes. Therefore, in parallel with the subsidy removal, my administration is committed to implementing social intervention programs to mitigate the short-term effects on vulnerable populations. These programs will ensure that the burden of subsidy removal is shared equitably and that the most vulnerable among us are protected." End quote. Meanwhile, a former secretary to the government of the Federation, Babachir Lawal, has condemned President Bola Tinubu's approach to leadership in Nigeria. Lawal, in an interview with the Cable, disclosed that he predicted that the appointment of the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Yemi Cardoso, by Tinubu would lead to disaster. He claimed that you cannot appoint someone in the place of leadership because he is your friend or loyal to you. According to the ex-secretary general of the Federation, because Cardoso ran a small ministry in Lagos, does not give him the ability to run the economy of the country. Lawal, while condemning the approach of leadership, said, and I quote, "I have been vindicated, but it is not something to be proud of when you predict a disaster and it happens. I knew it would happen, and that was why I spoke out then. Nigeria's economy does not normally follow the known pattern of economic operations. Issues in Nigeria like demand and supply that are in the textbooks. The way Nigeria works is completely different from textbooks economics." End quote. Now, a group of protesters, guided by the Nigeria Labour Congress, has surrounded the National Assembly complex in Abuja to express their grievances over the mounting economic hardships and the upward spiral of living cost. Protesters were seen carrying different placards that decry the state of the nation's economy. You'll recall that the NLC had declared Tuesday 27th and Wednesday 28th for nationwide protests to call the government's attention to the suffering of Nigerians occasioned by the implementation of the fuel subsidy removal policy and floating of the naira. Now, despite a last-minute meeting with the Bola Ahmed Tinubu-led federal government, the Nigeria Labour Congress vowed to continue with the proposed nationwide protest holding today. Speaking to journalists after the closed-door meeting, the NLC president, Joe Ajari, maintained that the protest would go on as planned. He, however, urged the security agents to protect the protesters. The NLC president added that their list of demands would be submitted to the National Assembly today. Protesters gathered at the White House entrance chanting "Hunger Day," a pidgin English term that means there is hunger. Now, the special advisor to President Bola Tinubu on media and publicity, Ajurun Galali, has characterized the ongoing Nigeria Labour Congress protest as unnecessary. The protest, which saw members of organized labor and affiliated unions across the nation taking to the streets today, was aimed at drawing attention to the economic difficulties and soaring inflation rates that have plagued citizens. In a televised interview on TVC, Ngalali addressed the concerns raised by the protesters, stating that the federal government is actively implementing measures to alleviate the hardships faced by Nigerians. He emphasized the administration's commitment to economic reforms and interventions designed to stabilize the economy and reduce the financial burden on the populace. The protests orchestrated by the NLC were in response to what they described as a failure on the part of the government to address the root causes of inflation and economic challenges despite previous dialogues and agreements. The labor unions have voiced their dissatisfaction with the pace and effectiveness of government actions in mitigating the economic strain experienced by the average Nigerian. He said, any labor union that is speaking to the concerns of Nigerian families, the pains that are being felt by our people, is absolutely free to do so. It is right that Nigerians speak up in difficult situations, and the government has been doing everything possible to alleviate those concerns. But we also want to separate the legitimate concerns being expressed by some of the labor unions from people trying to leverage some of the situation in the country to achieve a political agenda. We have seen the Trade Union Congress pull out of the purported nationwide protest. We have seen the National Association of Nigerian Students pull out of the protest. There is no unanimity behind what NLC is trying to do. And now for our news analysis segment, we actually have right here in the studio Dr. Ifeanyi Chukwuka. Now, let me give you a little profile briefing of Dr. Ifeanyi Chukwuka. Dr. Ifeanyi Chukwuka is one that you call one of the old blue royal bloods, right? He's a former advisor to late Chukwuemeka Ezefe, former Anambra State Governor in 1992, former Director General Bureau of Information and Culture to Colonel Mike Atta 1993, former Media and Publicity Advisor to late Dr. Chinwoke Mbanuju, former Anambra State Governor in 1999, and former Director General National Orientation Agency, Abuja. Welcome to the World News at 6 on VOP 90.3 FM, Dr. Ifeanyi Chukwuka.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I would like you to actually stay put because I really want everything you are going to respond to be very audible. And the idea of the news analysis segment is for the better comprehension of our listeners to understand some of these issues on the world news. Now, in reaction to what is going on in the country, there is hunger in the land and protests are taking place all over. The NLC had stated they wanted to commence on a strike, or rather a protest, to actually put across their discontent on the current state of the Nigerian economy, specifically reacting to the inaccessibility to purchase food items, which is a basic requirement for any person, any productive society. Now, the president, in reaction to that, because criticisms have come from several quarters as to the method through which President Bola Ahmed Tinubu removed fuel subsidy, and according to him, he said in defending his decision while the administration ended fuel subsidy regime, he said because it was causing a strain on the economy which led to inefficiencies and most importantly hindered Nigeria's ability to invest in critical areas of energy security. Now, we do know that during the campaign in 2022-2023, most of the presidential candidates campaigned on the removal of fuel subsidy. One of the things they said was that it was eating deep into our national treasury and that Nigerians were not benefiting from it. But you recall at the time where the CPC, now APC, when they merged, they went on an Occupy Nigeria protest way back in 2012, where they demanded a former president, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, should not increase fuel at the time and should not also remove fuel subsidy. Now, the president's team, in defending his administration's removal, has said that time is different from now. Do you think the president's excuse as to removing fuel subsidy is tenable with what is currently being experienced in the country? I would like a comprehensive deets on that.
Thank you very much. And I want to be explicit.
Okay.
Because I am disappointed, completely disappointed in this government. Why am I disappointed? The president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is a politician.
All right.
And politicians know that when you traverse through nooks and crannies of Nigeria, canvassing for votes, the first priority in your mind is what to do for the people after you have won an election.
Okay.
These people went thick and through thick and thin to vote for this man. Well, ab initio, I didn't like him because when I was the Director General, National Orientation Agency, Obasanjo was the president. And I had argued addressing youth corpers in Abuja that after Obasanjo, nobody who is over 55 years should rule this nation. I received a query that I insulted the president. But that's not my problem. My problem is that if you plot the graph of the brain activities of any human being, it forms a parabolic curve. It rises from decrescendo level to crescendo level and falls back again to decrescendo. When you are 70 years down, you are going back again to decrescendo.
So you're saying that the former administration of Muhammadu Buhari, who was actually above 70, and now the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, there is a decrescendo level, and that's why the economy is the way it was during his tenure and now?
Yes, because these people have lost articulative method on this economy. There is a crescendo level. The crescendo level of brain activities goes from when you are from, let me say, 40 years to 55 years.
Okay.
That is when your brain activity, the cognitive activity is at its optimal.
Okay.
Now, these people, after 60,
all right,
you are beginning to decrease again, and you go back to decrescendo. And so when people go back to decrescendo, their brain activity goes back to decrescendo. They cannot cognitively think fast.
All right.
Now, let me buttress what I'm saying. Tinubu won an election. He has not known anything about fuel subsidy. He just came and instituted a government of Bamagana. There are bad people surrounding him as advisors. So they came to him because he has no agenda. He doesn't know anything about fuel and subsidy. They told him, oh, if you remove this fuel subsidy, the Nigerian economy will boom and go to high heavens and everything will be fine. And without sitting down to analyze whether this thing is true, whether it's going to function, whether it's going to work, he removed fuel subsidy.
Dr. Chukwuma, let me reiterate what you just said.
Yes.
You're saying that the president did not have an agenda. He had no idea or no knowledge.
Yes.
But you know he was not the only one who actually campaigned on the promise of removing fuel subsidy. So are you saying he borrowed that idea from other presidential candidates?
I don't care who campaigned on removal of fuel subsidy.
Okay.
All of them are ignoramus.
Really?
Yes.
So you're literally saying that they were all ignorant of the effect that subsidy removal would cause?
Period.
Are you saying that it was wrong to remove fuel subsidy, or are you saying that it was not properly implemented?
Let me tell you why it was wrong to remove fuel subsidy. During the time of MKO Abiola, he made one statement which nobody has up till today tried to find whether that thing is going to work or not.
Okay.
What was his statement? Abiola was asked during debate with Ibrahim Tofa whether he was going to remove fuel subsidy. That time fuel was still about 23 naira per liter. Whether he was going to remove fuel subsidy. Do you know what he said? He said that all these people clamoring to rule Nigeria has never sold a bag of orange and made gain. So how would they know what is happening in fuel? That before anybody can remove fuel subsidy or convince him to remove fuel subsidy, that he has one question to ask them. How much does it take government to refine 1 liter of petrol? Nigeria doesn't know today. We don't know how much it takes government to refine a liter of petrol. So they tell us they are removing subsidy. What if we find out at the end of the day that it takes government 300 naira to refine a liter of petrol, and they are selling it to the masses at 700 naira? Are they doing any good to the masses? They are exploiting the masses. So we don't know how much it takes them. Let them do an internal economics and tell us how much it takes to refine 1 liter. Because this is where we are with the battle is. 1 liter of petrol, how much does it cost? If you don't know the cost, how can you fix a price for it?
Now, let me take you back to what you said earlier.
Yes.
You were talking about the age and how the cells or the brain cells depreciates over time.
Correct.
You were saying that ideally, the current state of the Nigerian country as a whole needs a young, vibrant leader, right?
Yeah.
And that when we have possibly leaders who have gotten to a certain age, they literally don't have an idea on how to govern.
Correct.
Now, the question is, if that was the case, why do we campaign for presidents whom we know may not actually have an idea on how to govern, especially if they're older? And I'm asking this question in reference to Joe Biden, President of the United States of America. He's actually old. The Americans voted for him. So if you're talking about cognitivity and age, well, you have the supposed democratic system that we copy from. They have actually campaigned and they actually voted in a president of that same age grade. So are you talking about the fact that is the geographical location or the hemisphere that defines the acuity, the mental acuity of any of these leaders?
Thank you very much. I am resident in US.
Okay.
I'm also a citizen. I have studied American democracy.
All right.
I made an A in American democracy.
Okay.
And I find what is happening there. Can you compare the time of Bill Clinton and Barack Obama to what Biden is doing now? You cannot. These were young men with articulative agenda. They know what to do. If you come into government without an agenda, you are subject to what Tinubu is suffering now. Anybody comes to push you this side, you follow him. And then some people will shout, oh, why are you doing this? Another person gives you another idea, you go that way. Look at where we are after removing fuel subsidy. The nation economy nosedived. And today, we are in a quagmire. We don't even know how to come out. Whether we are going forward or not. Do we now reinstated the subsidy again? We don't know. Look at what has happened. When I came back from US in December, I bought a bag of rice for 58,000 naira. Today, it is above 80,000. Cement. When I was building my house, cement was 4,500. We were managing, complaining. Today, cement is 13,000. Over this, the Latin people will ask, where is this leading us to?
See.
What is our problem? Now, how can you? The problem in Nigeria today is that the government is doing nothing for its people. What did Tinubu do? He says it's alleviating the poverty of the effect of fuel subsidy.
Yes.
You know what he did? He gave governors 5 billion naira. One of the governors came and said it was 2 billion they have released to them.
And Akpabio said it was 30 billion naira.
Okay. Now, what do they do with that? Nothing. Did the woman in Oshodi market get any effect of that 2 billion naira? No. Did the woman in Ogbete market in Enugu got the effect of that 30 billion naira? No. Are the roads paved so that do we have electricity? The woman in this market, in this alleviation of fuel subsidy, still goes home and there is no electricity. A mosquito will feed on him and he will suffer from malaria, and government is doing nothing to even alleviate him from going to hospital, paying for that person, paying a little bit of that. She will still use her money to pay for her health and do all these things for herself.
Dr. Ifeanyi,
So why would the people? That is why I am supporting the NLC. You know what? Demonstrate until government sits up.
Well, Ajuri Ngalale is saying that there is a political agenda to this because the Nigerian, that is NANS, Nigerian Association of Nigerian Students, they actually pulled out, the Trade Union Congress pulled out, and he's saying that the protest is unnecessary, that there are measures already being implemented by the federal government to curtail or quell the hardship in the Nigerian economy and the state of hunger. Now, in collaboration to what you're saying, Dr. Ifeanyi, former Nigerian President, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, identified low citizen productivity and poor resource management as the main causes of the country's persistent economic problems. And this was stated during a book launch of Court and Politics by Dr. Umar Ado. Obasanjo stressed the importance of giving state and local governments more authority and funding from the federal government, and he contended that doing so would improve resource management and lessen national competition. Now, his stance underscores broader discussions on Nigeria's governance structure and economic viability. While calls for a return to the parliamentary system gained traction, Obasanjo's emphasis on addressing core issues like productivity and resource management suggests a nuanced approach to Nigeria's challenges, and he is urging for fundamental shifts in societal attitudes and political practices. Now, let me try to break down what this is actually saying so that you can respond appropriately. Former President Obasanjo is stating that it is poor management and resource control that is the problem. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, while he was campaigning, said he would actually first of all start off with widening the tax nets, strengthening productivity, and floating the naira. That was one of the mantras he used while he was campaigning. Now we have seen what it is to widen the tax net. Are you widening the tax net when there is no productivity, when multinational companies are shutting down, and at the same time he just recently constituted an economic advisory team, members of Tony Elumelu, you have the owner of Boa Cement, as well as Aliko Dangote. These are individuals who are to advise him on how to propel the economy forward. And you said something earlier that he actually has no idea. Do you think this team of individuals with him would advise him on what to do about resource control and management control? And do not forget the recent implementation of the Oronsanyi report.
Thank you very much. Let me tell you.
Let's come closer to the mic.
Yeah, that the English adage says that too many teachers spoil the brood.
Okay.
Now we are having too many advisors. And that goes to what I told you before. If you get to a government, if you are clamoring to rule and you don't have an idea and you don't have an agenda, you don't have an ideology, this is where you get to. Anybody can form his own clique and tell you this is the way to go. You follow that. Remember the Yoruba song man of Kete Kete, the man that was on a horse going somewhere. He had a horse and the horse was moving on the road. The man was with his son moving on the road with the horse. The horse was carrying a load. The people saw him and said, "Oh, why are you doing this? You need to climb on the horse because the horse is natured to carry loads." They climbed on the horse with the load. Then on the road, another person saw him, say, "Oh, why are you killing this horse? You need to leave your son and you trekking and the horse carry your son." Another person said, "You are a foolish man. Why are you leaving your son? You is young. You should be the one on the horse." And he got confused. At a point they told him, in fact, the man gave up and said he's confused. This is what is happening here. This man had no ideology of his own. His brain cells have reached decrescendo level. So all these Elumelu and the Bua and whoever you're talking about, by the time they are even advising him, he's sleeping. Because the brain cells are tired.
But the president said he is capable to actually handle the economic situation in the country.
Where is it?
When he campaigned that it was his turn to become the president, he said he actually knew what to do. He had the right team by his side to rule the country. And he made reference to the fact that he was meant to be in the Guinness World Book of Records because of the, the miracles, or rather the governance method he implemented while he was the governor of Lagos State. So what happened to the Bola Tinubu of then, the governor of Lagos State, and the president now, with all of the ideas and the prospects he had for revitalizing the Nigerian economy?
Thank you very much. I was DG National Orientation Agency. The Abuja politics is different from Lagos State politics.
Okay.
Well, how did I know? I was DG and I was invited to a meeting by the Honorable Minister of Information. Ben Bruce was there, Director General NTA.
Yes.
Ediro was there, Director General, Radio Nigeria, and so many other people. And it was during the time of Oshimole, and there was labor crisis. And I gave idea on how to break down the labor crisis and every other thing. Then Jerry Ghana, at the end of that meeting, was so impressed that he said, hey, I'm going to make you a consultant to these radio stations, the media stations, that you seem to have more ideas on what is happening. So I came home to my office and I called my PA. I said, hey, this is how we held this meeting today, and this is what we did. You know what he told me?
No.
Oga, please hide this your intelligence. If you want us to remain in this position as DG NOAA, you have to hide your intelligence. I said, why? He said, because Abuja politics is different from Anambra politics where you came from. Oga, I've served 7 ministers in this Abuja. This is a different ball game. I told him that he's talking nonsense. He betted with me. If I ever will appear in that meeting again, then he knows that this is not Abuja. Do you know what? The next adjourned date, I was in that meeting. Jerry Ghana was writing on his desk. When he finished writing on that desk, he came to me and said, hey, there is another meeting he was invited for. I should represent him in that meeting, that this one is purely information and not orientation. That's why I was eliminated in that meeting.
So you're saying that when it comes to the politics in Abuja, common sense does not apply?
It doesn't. What works in Lagos State is not what is going to work in Abuja.
Are you saying the political agenda there is not for the people but themselves?
Yeah. These people are rogues masquerading as politicians. What baffles me in this country is that we have seen how people die. How people die every day. Some slump and die. I expected that Tinubu at 80 years or below, maybe we don't even know his age. Maybe he's 70 or 80. All right. At 80 years, what are you doing with money again? You don't need money. You are suffering from, if you are not suffering from diabetes, you have dementia, you have this, you are not eating anything. What are you storing money for again? All you needed to do is to find a way to alleviate the suffering masses, even if it means, hey, making sure that health sector, that we introduce what this national health insurance, so that when you working in this studio is sick, you can go, insurance will pay. That's how we do in developed countries. Look at, I am over 65. In fact, by next year, I'll be 69 years. But at 65, American government instituted what they call social security. They pay me my money. Whether I'm in Nigeria or anywhere, every month, my social security money comes. Because of the time I worked as a young man. But here in Nigeria, you see pensioners dying because they can't get their pension. So what is the problem? They worked. They told us that the firewood you gathered when you are young is the one you are going to use when you're old. These Nigerians work out their life and every other thing, and at the end of the day, somebody will embezzle their thing, buying houses in France, in Germany, in Sweden, in America. Are you going to live in all these houses?
Godswill Akpabio has blamed former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria for the current economic quagmire that Nigeria is facing. Emefiele too has actually written and said that Godswill Akpabio is a liar for actually accusing him by saying that he is a cause of the current quagmire that this administration is facing. But let's go on to a chieftain of the All Progressives Congress. His name is Eze Chukwuemeka Eze, and he has rejected what he described as excuses and blame game dished out by the presidency as a cause of the deepening economic woes. Eze says President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his team seem entrapped in a quagmire as hope is nowhere in sight to get the country out of the pickle. The APC chieftain claims that the Nigerian economy has progressively continued in a free fall, while the value of the naira to other convertible currencies is steadily on a downward trend and is nearing a state of worthlessness in the international money market. He noted that the effect of the uninterrupted journey of the naira to its place of final rest is a hike in the price of food and other basic commodities, and that the attendant reality in the hunger and starvation that is feasible on the faces of angry Nigerians who, according to him, are unsure of a square meal each passing day, and most of whom go to bed each night hungry. So in reaction to that, he's saying that the recent comment credited to Vice President Kashim Shettima, who had inferred that politicians who lost in the 2023 general elections were orchestrating a plot to destabilize Nigeria, he said it is inconsequential, and that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was never ready or prepared to make any meaningful impact in Nigeria, that his only concern was to be a president and nothing more. What would you say to what he just divulged?
Well, I liked the essay, who essay called.
Yes, yeah.
That was a good analogy. But all these analogies are not helping us.
No, but he just said something that the president wasn't interested in trying to ameliorate or alleviate the Nigerian economy, but he was more interested to just be named as a president. Would you agree with that? With some of the policies that he has tried to implement to alleviate the country from its current state?
That's funny. Why? That's why I told you that when people come to power, they should have an agenda. So that when people bring their own ideas to you, you marry your own idea with the people's idea with a view to, steering a middle ground that will affect the common man. When you don't have an agenda, that is the problem.
So what about the renewed hope agenda, the renewed hope mandate of this administration? Are you saying that the renewed hope mandate was a copy and paste? It wasn't properly deliberated on? For what you say, it's that there was no agenda. How do you try to be a president and have no agenda? Is that possible?
Just grammatical, you don't have an agenda. If you have an agenda, for instance, when I came to NUA, I had an agenda.
Now, NUA is a National Orientation Agency. Okay.
Correct. I had an agenda. What was my agenda? I've surveyed Nigeria and found that the problem we had that time was that of indiscipline, insincerity, impatience, intolerance, and injustice. And in a meeting in Kurujaji, Jos, where Obasanjo was there, Atiku was there, Danjuma and the rest of them, I got up and spoke, told them that our problem, I've summarized in 5 I's: impatience, insincerity, indiscipline, injustice, and intolerance. I said, if we fight this, we will have peace in everywhere in Nigeria.
Dr. Chukwuba, do you realize that the National Orientation Agency is good as not being in existence?
Yeah, because they are no more appointing people who have ideas. So when you don't have idea, you don't have idea. You just sit down there for the sake of the office. I moved out and began to propagate this to everywhere. I tried to reestablish what Ijeoma did. And what did he do? He saw all these things I saw. That Nigeria has impatience problem, indiscipline problem. He started war against indiscipline and corruption. These are people who think. I don't like people who just get into an office for the sake of office and then saying it is my turn. That is absolute bunk and powder and nonsense. It doesn't mean anything. It is not the turn of anybody. If you have an agenda, come and display your agenda.
Okay.
That is the problem. Now you talked about Obasanjo. I am so disappointed. In fact, I am disappointed in Obasanjo. I don't talk about Obasanjo.
All right.
Because I knew how he came to power. Because Ekweme would have been the president. Then he was jailed by Abacha. The trumped coup against him. He was jailed. Then they brought him out. He became the president. You know what he told us? He said within 6 months, power outage will be a thing of the past in Nigeria. I clapped for him. Where are we? After 8 years, you know what Obasanjo achieved? He wanted to amend Nigerian constitution to go for third tenure. Are these people crazy? Is there any demon in Aso Rock there that once you get there, you lose all the articulative ideas you have. And now Obasanjo is now crying holier than thou attitude. But when he was there, he did nothing. There was a one interview about foreign press interviewing him, and he was claiming holier than thou attitude. And the press man told him that during his tenure, he was adjudged the most corrupt president in Africa. He couldn't say anything.
And Dr. Ifeanyi, apparently the president's sons, that is Yinka and Sheyi, they're among a delegation to travel with the president on a state visit to Doha, Qatar. Now, Tinubu will visit Qatar on a state visit scheduled for the 2nd of March and the 3rd, but will be accompanied by 38 others, including his sons. The delegation was split into 2 batches. The first batch of 16 people are to arrive on February 28th, which includes Borno State Governor and some other ministers. And of course, the second batch made up of 22 people. Now, the presidency reacted because we do know how Sheyi Tinubu recently pleaded with Nigerians to please be patient with his dad, that his policies will take place very soon. And they said, according to the presidency by Ortega Ogra, the senior special assistant to President Tinubu on digital new media, he defended the president's inclusion of his sons, which is Sheyi and Yinka. He says that the delegation going with him to Qatar for a business and investment meeting, and that some leaders of the world take their children on state visits to educate them about world affairs and different cultures and to maintain a semblance of family life. Now, you recall that the president's implementation of the Oronsoye report is to merge agencies to reduce the cost of governance. And the last time he traveled for COP28, he traveled with about 1,114 persons, some official and some non-official. His son also accompanied. Now he's been accompanied to Qatar Doha with his sons. The presidency is defending it to be as possibly as a vacation visit with your father. What's your take on that before we wrap up?
Let me tell you, these people are playing with these people are playing with the lives of the common man in Nigeria.
Is it a wrong thing that the children are accompanying their father for a visit like that?
Let me go systematically.
Okay.
The people I blame, and I come straight away to tell you what is happening in Nigeria. The people I blame are the civil servants.
Okay.
Now, in government protocols, there is what is called director of protocol. The director of protocol manifests every day all the activities of governance and they manifest people who will follow the government. You do not go where you are not supposed to go to.
Okay.
You do not go follow the president where you don't have an idea to contribute in what is going. So if it is information, you bring information minister and all the other people that are supposed to.
They are also accompanying the president.
Okay. Now, how on earth can a president be going somewhere and then you have 1,000 and something people following him?
That was a COP28. This is a recent visit to Doha, which is slated for today, tomorrow.
A manifestation of ignoramus. Yes. You know why?
Why?
I'm telling you that you do not. That's why sometimes I hate civilian regime.
Sir? Let's be careful with our utterances. Civilian administration is a good one.
Let me finish what I'm telling you.
Right.
Because you guys, we cannot practice democracy the way it is.
Okay.
And we cannot practice military government the way it was. The way it was. So he said, let us have what is called, what did he call it again? He called it a combination of the military and the democratic system of government. Yes.
Okay.
He said the military can set up their own system as a watchdog of what the
so a combination of both.
Yes, he called it militocracy.
Okay.
No, not militocracy.
In other words,
he called it a name that is bringing the two together. So when the civilians want to overdo, the military will checkmate them.
All right.
So,
but then we already have the tiers of government that checkmates the executive.
Who is checkmating them?
We don't want to go into that, but we're already practicing a democratic system of government. We actually have a program coming up very soon. I want to say, Dr. Ifeanyi, thank you so much for taking your time to exponentially give us a breakdown on some of the issues that we actually talked about right here on the World News at 6. I sincerely do appreciate you. We've actually gone way above time, but I actually took permission for that today. So, however, to wrap up the World News at 6, thank you. Thank you so much.
God bless you.
All right, you can wait on. We'll be wrapping up now. To wrap up the World News, here again are the top stories. President Tinubu discloses reason for removing fuel subsidy. Babachir Lawal fires Tinubu says Nigeria is not Lagos. NLC protesters flood National Assembly and Presidency speaks amidst nationwide protest. That's a wrap on the World News at 6. My name is Esther Wachuku. Good evening and thank you for staying with us. Up next is the Evening Rush with Precious.